The bridge of the Vorthak flagship Death's Edge hummed with quiet activity. Fleet Admiral Krikstal stood before the main display, his forearms folded behind his back as he studied the star map. Red dots marked the positions of 60 Vorthak, warships hidden throughout the Kepler 442 asteroid belt. Green dots showed the approach path of the human fleet, still 3 days away from the trap. "Pathetic creatures," Krikstal muttered, his translator converting his harsh clicks and whistles into standard galactic speech. 12 small ships wandering into our web like lost younglings. Behind him, his tactical officer shifted nervously. "Admiral, the humans have surprised other fleets before. Perhaps we should—" "Silence." Krikstal's voice cut through the bridge like a blade. "The humans got lucky against the Zelani pirates and some border patrol ships. This is different. This is the full might of the Vorthak Third Fleet." 3 star systems away, Captain Lee Hyun stood in the observation deck of the UES Incheon, watching stars streak past as his ship traveled through hyperspace. The viewing port showed nothing but the swirling colors of faster-than-light travel, but Hyun's mind was focused on what waited ahead. "Sir?" Lieutenant Commander Kim Nari approached from behind. Her voice was steady, but Hyun could hear the slight tension. "Dr. Choi wants to speak with you in Admiral Park. He says it's urgent." Hyun nodded and followed her to the conference room. Admiral Park Soo was already there, his weathered face showing the strain of command. At 62, Park had fought in more space battles than most officers would see in 3 lifetimes. His gray hair was cut military short, and his dark eyes missed nothing. Dr. Choi Bin looked up from his datapad as they entered. The intelligence chief was younger than the other 2, but his reputation for uncovering enemy secrets was legendary throughout the human fleet. "Admiral Captain," Choi began without greeting, "we have a problem, or maybe an opportunity." Park leaned forward. "Explain." 3 hours ago, our long-range sensors picked up coded transmissions from the Kepler 442 system. The encryption was Vorthak military standard. Choi touched his pad and a holographic display appeared above the table. "After breaking the code, we found orders for a massive fleet concentration. 60 ships, Admiral, they're waiting for us." Kim Nari frowned. 60 ships? That's 5 times our number. If they know we're coming, they think they know. Choi interrupted. "The transmissions show they believe we're a standard exploration fleet. 12 science ships with light escorts, looking for new colony worlds." Admiral Park was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm. "How long have they been planning this?" "At least 2 weeks, based on the message traffic. Fleet Admiral Krikstal is commanding personally. He's calling it the final demonstration of human weakness. He plans to broadcast the battle across the galaxy." Captain Hyun smiled grimly. "Then we shouldn't disappoint him." Back in the Vorthak fleet, preparations continued around the clock. The asteroid belt provided perfect cover for the ambush. Massive warships, each one larger than any human vessel, positioned themselves among the floating rocks. Their weapons were powered down to avoid detection, but they were ready to unleash devastating firepower at a moment's notice. Krikstal had chosen his captains carefully. Each ship commander had experience fighting smaller races. The Vorthak had conquered 17 different species over the past 1,000 years. Humans would be number 18. "The trap is perfect," Krikstal told his assembled officers through the fleet communication system. "When the humans drop out of hyperspace at the system edge, they will begin their standard survey pattern. They will approach the inner planet slowly, scanning for resources. When they reach the asteroid belt, we will strike from all sides." The officers clicked their approval. The plan was simple, which made it strong. Humans might be clever, but they couldn't fight what they couldn't see coming. On the UES Busan, Captain Yu Jin reviewed the tactical data one more time. His ship was officially listed as a light cruiser, but the reality was very different. Hidden weapon pods lined the hull, concealed by holographic projectors. The ship's true firepower was 10 times what it appeared to be. Engineering reports. "All systems ready," his first officer reported. "The new plasma cannons are fully charged." Jin nodded. "Good. Remember, we maintain the illusion until Admiral Park gives the signal. To anyone watching, were just another exploration vessel. Similar preparations were happening throughout the human fleet. The UES Sol had deployed advanced sensor drones that looked like space debris. The UES Daegu had quietly launched a dozen stealth fighters that now hung motionless in space, waiting for orders. Dr. Jung A worked frantically in the Incheon's weapons lab, making final adjustments to the experimental shield systems. The technology was completely new, developed in the secret labs of Luna Station. If it worked, human ships would be nearly immune to conventional energy weapons. The adaptive matrix is stable, she reported to Captain Hyun over the communication system. But remember, this is the first real combat test. We don't know how it will handle sustained fire. In his private quarters, Admiral Park studied intelligence files on Fleet Admiral Krikstal. The Vorthak commander was known for his arrogance and his love of overwhelming force. He had never lost a battle, but he had also never fought an opponent who could match his technology. Park closed the file and opened another. This one contained the real mission parameters, known only to a handful of officers. The 12 ships of his fleet were not explorers. They were the most advanced warships humanity had ever built, disguised as civilian vessels, and sent to test their capabilities against the galaxy's strongest military power. The plan was risky. If they failed, humanity's expansion into the galaxy would end before it truly began. But if they succeeded, the balance of power would shift forever. Captain Namgil's ship, the UES Invisible, lived up to its name. Advanced stealth technology made it nearly impossible to detect, even at close range. For the past week, Gil had been shadowing the Vorthak fleet, recording their positions and communication patterns. Their discipline is good, he reported to Admiral Park through an encrypted channel. But they're overconfident. They've positioned themselves for maximum firepower, not for defense. If we can break their formation, they'll be vulnerable. The human fleet was still 2 days away from the trap, but every detail was being planned. Each ship knew its role. Each captain understood the stakes. They were about to face an enemy that had never been defeated, with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. But they had one advantage the Vorthak couldn't imagine. They knew exactly what was waiting for them. On the bridge of the Incheon, Captain Hyun watched the countdown timer. In 47 hours, they would drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The Vorthak would see what they expected to see: a small human fleet alone and vulnerable. They would never suspect that the hunters had become the hunted, and that their perfect ambush was about to become their worst nightmare. The swirling colors of hyperspace suddenly vanished, replaced by the cold stars of the Kepler 442 system. 12 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge, their engines glowing softly in the darkness. To any observer, they looked exactly like what they were supposed to be: a peaceful exploration fleet. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the Incheon, watching his tactical display come alive with sensor data. All ships report successful jump completion. Lieutenant Commander Kim Nari announced, "No immediate threats detected." Of course there were no immediate threats. The Vorthak fleet was hiding 4 hours away at normal speed, tucked between the asteroids like predators waiting for prey to wander close enough to strike. "Begin standard survey pattern," Admiral Park Soo ordered from his command chair. His voice carried to all 12 ships through the fleet communication system. "All vessels maintain formation. Science teams, start your scans of the outer planets." Fleet Admiral Krikstal watched the human ships on his tactical display with satisfaction. The humans were doing exactly what his intelligence report said they would do. They moved slowly inward, stopping to scan each planet they passed. Their formation was loose and defensive, perfect for scientific work, but terrible for combat. "Look at them," he said to his bridge crew. "Wandering through space, like they own the galaxy. Soon they will learn who the real masters are." His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. "Admiral, their ships are larger than our intelligence suggested, and their energy signatures are unusual." Krikstal waved a dismissive hand. "Size means nothing without weapons, and humans are known for their inefficient technology. Prepare the fleet for attack. When they reach the asteroid belt, We will show the galaxy what happens to species that think they can challenge the Vorthak Empire. The human fleet continued its slow approach, stopping every few hours to launch survey probes. The probes looked like standard scientific equipment, but several of them were actually advanced sensor platforms that were quietly mapping every Vorthak ship hiding in the asteroids. Dr. Choi Bin watched the tactical situation develop from the Incheon's intelligence center. We have confirmed positions on 57 enemy vessels, he reported to Admiral Park. 3 more are probably hidden behind the larger asteroids, but we can't get a clear reading. Understood, Park replied. Captain Nam Gil, are your people in position? From somewhere in the darkness beyond the asteroid belt, Captain Nam Gil's voice came through the secure channel. Affirmative, Admiral. My stealth squadron is ready. The Vorthak have no idea we're here. Engineer Chief Han Sol worked frantically in the Incheon's engine room, bringing the ship's hidden systems online. Power flowed to weapon batteries that didn't officially exist. Shield generators that had been disguised as cargo containers began their startup sequence. In 15 minutes, the ship would be ready to show its true nature. All experimental systems are responding normally, he reported. Dr. Young's adaptive shields are ready for activation. The new plasma cannons are charged and waiting. Captain Yu Jin paced the bridge of the Busan, watching his crew make final preparations. His ship was positioned on the left flank of the formation, exactly where the Vorthak expected a lightly armed escort to be. When the shooting started, he would be the first to surprise them. Major Lim, are your Marines ready? He asked. Major Lim Wu's voice came from the ship's hangar bay. Ready and waiting, sir. If any Vorthak ships survive long enough for boarding operations, we'll show them how humans fight up close. The human fleet was now 3 hours away from the asteroid belt. Long-range sensors showed the Vorthak ships powering up their weapons, systems preparing for the ambush. Every human captain could feel the tension building. On the Vorthak flagship, excitement filled the air. Officers moved with quick efficiency, double-checking weapon systems and communication arrays. The battle would be broadcast live across the galaxy, showing every species what happened to those who opposed the Vorthak Empire. All ships report ready, Krikstal's tactical officer announced. The humans are maintaining course. They will enter the kill zone in 2 hours and 47 minutes. Perfect, Krikstal said. Signal all captains. When the humans reach .77 Alpha, we attack from all sides simultaneously. Overwhelming force will crush them before they can even call for help. But the humans had no intention of calling for help. They were the help, and they were about to demonstrate why Earth had never been conquered. Dr. Jung Ai made her final checks on the experimental shield technology. The adaptive matrix would analyze incoming enemy fire and automatically adjust the shield frequency to provide maximum protection. It was brilliant in theory, but this would be its first real test. Shield generators are stable, she reported. If the Vorthak use standard energy weapons, we should be able to absorb their fire with minimal damage. If they use something unexpected, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Admiral Park studied the tactical display one more time. 60 Vorthak ships against 12 human vessels. On paper, it looked like a massacre waiting to happen, but paper didn't account for human ingenuity, and it certainly didn't account for the advanced technology his fleet was about to unveil. All ships, prepare for combat operations, he announced. In 1 hour, we will show the galaxy that humanity is not prey. We are predators, and we have been hunting much longer than anyone realizes. Captain O-Ray commanded the UES Gwangju, positioned at the rear of the formation. Her ship carried the most advanced communication equipment in the fleet, ready to broadcast the coming battle to human space and beyond. The galaxy was about to learn that reports of humanity's weakness had been greatly exaggerated. The asteroid belt loomed ahead, a field of floating rocks that stretched for millions of kilometers. Hidden among those rocks, 60 of the galaxy's most powerful warships waited in perfect ambush position. Their crews were confident, their weapons were ready, and their commander was certain of victory. They were about to learn why certainty was often the first casualty of war. Lieutenant Park, Jun, the youngest officer on the Incheon, monitored the Vorthak communication channels. The aliens were so confident that they weren't even trying to hide their transmissions. He could hear their excitement building as the human fleet approached the trap. Sir, he reported to Captain Hyun. The Vorthak are celebrating already. They think we're walking blind into their ambush. Hyun smiled grimly. Let them celebrate. In 30 minutes, the party will be over. The human ships entered the outer edge of the asteroid belt, moving slowly and carefully as if trying to avoid collision with the floating rocks. Their formation spread out slightly, giving each ship room to maneuver around the larger asteroids. To the watching Vorthak, it looked like exactly the behavior they expected from nervous explorers. Now, Fleet Admiral Krickstall whispered, and then louder, all ships attack, for the glory of the Vorthak Empire. 60 massive warships suddenly appeared from behind asteroids, their weapons blazing. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled space, converging on the human fleet from every direction. The trap was sprung, the ambush was perfect, and victory seemed assured. The first salvo struck the human ships with enough force to vaporize a small moon. Explosions lit up the darkness as energy weapons found their targets. Krickstall waited for the human ships to break apart, for the quick and decisive victory he had promised his superiors. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships absorbed the devastating attack, their shields flaring but holding. And then they began to change. Holographic projectors shut down, revealing weapon batteries that had been hidden all along. Hull panels slid away to expose missile launchers and energy cannons. The 12 exploration vessels transformed into the most advanced warships the galaxy had ever seen. What? Krickstall stared at his tactical display in shock. Impossible. Humans don't have that kind of technology. Captain Hyun's voice echoed across all frequencies, calm and deadly. Unknown vessels, you have attacked human ships without provocation. We will now respond appropriately. The real battle was about to begin. The silence that followed Captain Hyun's transmission lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the human fleet opened fire, and the asteroid belt erupted into chaos. The UES Incheon led the counterattack, its hidden plasma cannons emerging from concealed hull sections like the fangs of a predator. Streams of superheated energy lanced out toward the nearest Vorthak ships, moving faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. The first target, a heavy cruiser that had been hiding behind a kilometer-wide asteroid, simply vanished in a ball. Fire. Fleet Admiral Krickstall gripped the arms of his command chair as his tactical display lit up with impossible readings. How are they doing this? He demanded. Human weapons can't penetrate our shields. His tactical officer's voice shook with confusion. Admiral, these aren't the energy signatures in our database. Their weapons are completely unknown. And their shield, sir, our most powerful shots are barely scratching them. On the bridge of the Busan, Captain Yu Jin watched with satisfaction as his ship's adaptive shielding absorbed another Vorthak energy blast. Dr. Jung's technology was working perfectly. The shields analyzed each incoming shot and automatically adjusted their frequency to provide maximum protection. Target the command ship cluster, Jin ordered his weapons officer. Let's show them what real firepower looks like. The Busan's main cannon swiveled toward 3 Vorthak destroyers that had been moving to flank the human formation. The weapons fired in sequence, each shot perfectly timed and aimed. The first destroyer's shields failed after 2 hits. The third shot tore through its hull like paper, and the ship broke apart in a series of secondary explosions. Lieutenant Commander Kim Nari coordinated the overall tactical response from the Incheon's combat center. Her screen showed the positions of all 60 Vorthak ships, updated in real time by the sensor drones that had been secretly deployed hours earlier. Admiral, we have confirmed kills on 7 enemy vessels, she reported. Enemy formation is beginning to break down. They're trying to establish a defensive perimeter, but their positioning is wrong for this type of engagement. Admiral Park Soo nodded grimly. The Vorthak were trained to fight weaker opponents, not equals. Their tactics assumed they would face enemies with inferior technology and limited coordination. They had never fought humans before. Captain Nam Gil, begin your attack run, Park ordered. From the darkness beyond the asteroid belt, 5 shapes that had been invisible suddenly blazed to life. Captain Nam Gil's stealth squadron dropped their cloaking fields and accelerated toward the Vorthak rear positions at maximum speed. The UES Invisible led the charge, its advanced engines pushing it to velocities that seemed impossible for such a small ship. Behind it, 4 more stealth vessels followed in perfect formation, their weapons already locked onto targets. "Surprise," Namgil said quietly, and opened fire. The Vorthak ships guarding the rear of their formation never saw the attack coming. Energy beams struck them from behind, hitting weak points in their armor that the stealth ships had mapped during hours of careful observation. 3 ships died in the first few seconds, their reactors overloading in brilliant flashes of light. Krixtal spun his command chair to face the rear tactical display, his forearms gesturing wildly. "Where did those ships come from? How many humans are there?" "Unknown, sir," his communications officer replied. "We're detecting at least 17 human vessels now, but our sensors show impossible readings. Some of these ships are moving faster than our computers say is possible." The battle that the Vorthak had planned as a simple ambush was turning into a nightmare. Their carefully prepared positions were being torn apart by human ships that fought with precision and technology far beyond anything in their intelligence reports. Dr. Choi Bin monitored the engagement from his intelligence station, recording every detail of Vorthak tactics and technology. This information would be invaluable for future encounters, but more importantly, he was making sure that selected pieces of misinformation reached the enemy. "Their command frequencies are wide open," he reported to Admiral Park. "They're panicking." "Sir, I'm detecting calls for reinforcements, requests for retreat authorization, and at least 3 ship captains asking for new orders." Captain O'Ray's ship, the Gwangju, maintained its position at the edge of the battle while its powerful communication arrays broadcast the engagement across the galaxy. Every major species would know within hours that the Vorthak Empire had suffered a devastating defeat. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," she reported. "The galaxy is watching, Admiral." Major Lim Wu watched the battle from the hangar bay of the Busan, his Marines ready for boarding operations if any Vorthak ships survived long enough to be captured. But as he studied the tactical display, it became clear that few enemy vessels would remain intact. "Sir," one of his sergeants said, "the aliens are trying to retreat. Some of their ships are breaking off from the main engagement." Lim smiled coldly. "Not if Admiral Park has anything to say about it." Indeed, Admiral Park had no intention of letting the Vorthak fleet escape to report what they had learned. The human ships began to spread out, using their superior speed and maneuverability to cut off escape routes. Engineer Chief Hans Sol pushed his ship's experimental systems to their limits, coordinating with similar engineers throughout the fleet. The new technology was performing beyond all expectations, but it was also consuming enormous amounts of power. "All systems holding steady," he reported. "The plasma cannons are running hot, but they're within acceptable parameters. We can maintain this rate of fire for at least another hour." The Vorthak formation continued to collapse as human ships struck from multiple directions. Captain Yujin led a daring charge directly through the center of their defensive line, his ship's shields absorbing massive amounts of enemy fire, while his weapons carved a path of destruction. Dr. Young Ai monitored the adaptive shield systems from her laboratory, making real-time adjustments as the battle progressed. The shields were learning from each attack, becoming more efficient at stopping Vorthak weapons. "Shield effectiveness is increasing with each engagement," she reported. "The adaptive matrix is working perfectly. We're now stopping 97% of incoming fire." Lieutenant Park Jun intercepted increasingly desperate Vorthak communications. The aliens were starting to realize that their perfect ambush had become a trap for themselves. "Admiral Krixtal is requesting immediate evacuation," he reported. 3 of their ship captains have already abandoned their posts. Their fleet discipline is breaking down completely. The asteroid belt had become a graveyard. Burning Vorthak ships drifted between the rocks, their hulls cracked open, and their crews either dead or fleeing in escape pods. The humans had lost no ships and suffered only minor damage to their shields. Captain Nam Gil's stealth squadron completed their flanking maneuver, appearing behind the remaining Vorthak vessels like ghosts materializing from the void. His ships opened fire at point-blank range, their weapons designed specifically for close combat. "This is for every species you've conquered," Nam Gil said, as his ship's main cannon tore through a Vorthak battleship. "And this is so you never forget that humans protect their own." The Vorthak fleet that had numbered 60 ships at the start of the engagement was now reduced to fewer than 20. Those that remained were damaged, scattered, and desperately trying to escape. But the humans had surrounded them completely. Fleet Admiral Kriegstall stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In less than an hour, the greatest military power in the galaxy had been crushed by a small human fleet. It was impossible, but the evidence was burning all around him. "Signal retreat," he ordered, his voice barely a whisper. "All ships, withdraw immediately." But Admiral Park Sue had other plans. The humans had come to send a message, and that message would be heard across the galaxy. No one who attacked humanity would escape to threaten them again. "All ships, pursue and destroy," Park ordered. No survivors. The hunt was about to begin. The remaining Vorthak ships scattered like frightened animals, abandoning their formation and fleeing in all directions. Fleet Admiral Kriegstall's flagship led the retreat, its engines straining at maximum power as it tried to reach the edge of the system where it could jump to hyperspace. Captain Lee Hyun watched the fleeing enemies on his tactical display and felt no satisfaction, only cold calculation. These ships would report back to their empire about human capabilities. They would warn their leaders and help them prepare countermeasures. That could not be allowed to happen. "All ships, pursue," Admiral Park Sue ordered. "Standard pursuit. Formation. No enemy vessel leaves this system." The human fleet split into hunting groups, each one assigned to track down specific fleeing ships. The Incheon led one group after the Vorthak flagship, while Captain Yujin's Busan took another group to hunt down the ships fleeing toward the outer planets. Lieutenant Commander Kim Nari coordinated the pursuit from her tactical station. "Enemy ships are spreading out along multiple vectors," she reported. 17 vessels remaining, all attempting to reach minimum safe distance for hyperspace jump. "How long until they can escape?" Admiral Park asked. "At their current speed, the fastest ships will reach jump distance in 43 minutes, Kim replied. "The slower ones will need over an hour." Dr. Choi Bin worked frantically at his intelligence station, monitoring enemy communications and analyzing their retreat patterns. "Admiral, the Vorthak are transmitting on emergency frequencies. They're trying to warn their home fleet about our capabilities." "Block their transmissions," Park ordered. "I don't want a single message getting through." Captain Nam Gil's stealth ships had already anticipated the order. His vessels deployed powerful jamming equipment, creating a wall of electronic interference that blocked all outgoing Vorthak communications. The fleeing ships were now completely cut off from the outside galaxy. The UES Seoul, commanded by Captain Kang Min, accelerated toward a group of 3 Vorthak destroyers that were fleeing toward the system's outer edge. His ship's new engines allowed it to match the aliens' top speed while still maintaining full weapons power. "Target the lead ship," Kang ordered his weapons officer. "One shot. Center mass." The plasma cannon fired once, sending a bolt of superheated energy across space. The Vorthak destroyer's rear shields flared and failed, and the shot punched through its hull like a spear through paper. The ship's reactor destabilized and exploded, taking the other 2 destroyers with it in a chain reaction. Engineer Chief Han Sol monitored the pursuit from the Incheon's engine room. The experimental technology was holding up well, but he knew they were pushing everything to its limits. "Shield generators are at 80% efficiency," he reported. "We can maintain this for another hour before we need to let them cool down." Fleet Admiral Kriegstall stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet die on the tactical displays. Ships that had served the Vorthak Empire for decades were being destroyed one by human weapons that seemed to ignore every known law of physics. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his science officer. "Our intelligence said humans were a primitive species. They barely have faster-than-light travel." The science officer studied his readings with growing confusion. "Sir, their energy output levels are impossible. Some of their ships are generating more power than our entire fleet combined. And their weapons, they're using principles we don't understand." Captain O'Ray maintained her position at the edge of the battle, her ship's communication arrays broadcasting the destruction live across the galaxy. Every species would see what happened to those who underestimated humanity. "Admiral," she reported to Park. "We're receiving response transmissions from multiple star systems. The Zelani Confederation is requesting immediate diplomatic contact. The Korthak Alliance is asking about trade agreements. Even some Vorthak colonies are sending messages." Park nodded grimly. "The galaxy is learning that power has shifted. Continue broadcasting." Major Lim Wu and his Marines watched the pursuit from the Busan's hangar bay. There would be no boarding operations today. The human fleet was not taking prisoners. "Sir," one of his sergeants asked, "are we really going to destroy all of them?" Lim's expression was hard. "The Vorthak have conquered 17 different species. They've destroyed entire civilizations. Today, they learn what it feels like to be on the receiving end." The hunt continued across the Kepler 442 system. Human ships moved with deadly efficiency, their advanced sensors tracking every fleeing enemy vessel. The Vorthak had nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, and no hope of escape. Dr. Jung-ai monitored the shield systems as her ships chased down their targets. The adaptive technology was working so well that some ships were taking direct hits without even slowing down. "Shield efficiency is now at 99.4%, she reported. "We're essentially immune to their weapons." Lieutenant Park Jun continued intercepting Vorthak communications, though there were fewer and fewer signals as ships were destroyed. "The enemy is down to 12 ships, he reported. "Most of them have stopped trying to fight back. They're just running." Captain Yu Jin's hunting group cornered 4 Vorthak cruisers near the system's 4th planet. The enemy ships had tried to use the planet's gravity well to accelerate their escape, but human technology was too advanced. "This is Captain Yu Jin of the Human Commonwealth Fleet," he broadcast on the Vorthak frequency. "Surrender now and your crews will be spared." The lead Vorthak captain's response was immediate and predictable. "Never. The Vorthak Empire does not surrender to inferior species." "Then you die as you lived," Jin replied sadly, and gave the order to fire. All 4 enemy ships were destroyed in less than 30 seconds. The Vorthak flagship was now only minutes away from the minimum safe distance for hyperspace jump. Krixtal pushed his engines harder, pouring every available bit of power into his drive systems. "Come on," he muttered. "Just a little further." But the human ships were faster. The Incheon and 3 other vessels had already positioned themselves between the flagship and its escape route. Admiral Park's face appeared on Krixtal's main screen. "Fleet Admiral Krixtal," Park said calmly. "I am Admiral Park Su of the Human Commonwealth. You came here to destroy my fleet and broadcast our defeat to the galaxy. Instead, you have given us an opportunity to demonstrate why humanity will never be anyone's prey." Krixtal straightened to his full height, all 4 arms spread in a gesture of defiance. "Humans, you may have won this battle, but the Vorthak Empire will never—" "The Vorthak Empire is finished," Park interrupted. "Your fleet is destroyed, your reputation is broken, and the galaxy now knows that humanity protects its own." Captain Namgil's stealth ship appeared directly behind the Vorthak flagship, its weapons already charged and ready. There was nowhere left to run. Dr. Choi Bin had been monitoring the entire conversation, recording every word for future analysis. "Admiral," he reported, "I'm reading massive power buildup in the enemy flagship. I think they're going to self-destruct rather than surrender." "Let them," Park said quietly. "Their choice has always been to fight or die. Today they get both." The Vorthak flagship's reactor began to overload as Krixtal activated the self-destruct sequence. He would not give the humans the satisfaction of capturing him alive. But even in death, the Vorthak admiral had failed to understand his enemy. The humans had never intended to take prisoners. They had come to send a message, and that message required no survivors. The flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking Krixtal and his crew with it. Around the system, the last few Vorthak ships met similar fates as human hunters tracked them down one by one. In less than 2 hours, 60 of the galaxy's most powerful warships had been reduced to floating debris. The trap that was supposed to end humanity's expansion had become humanity's first great victory. But Admiral Park knew the real battle was just beginning. Word of this engagement would spread across the galaxy faster than light, and every species would have to decide whether Humanity was friend or enemy. The age of human expansion had begun with the complete annihilation of those who stood in its way. The Kepler 442 system was silent now except for the soft hum of human ships moving through the debris field. Where 60 Vorthak warships had waited in ambush, only twisted metal and cooling plasma remained. The greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen had been completely destroyed in less than 3 hours. Admiral Park Sue stood on the observation deck of the Incheon, looking out at the wreckage floating among the asteroids. Each piece of debris represented years of alien shipbuilding, thousands of trained crew members, and centuries of military tradition, all of it gone in an afternoon. "Final count, Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Kim Nari reported as she joined him at the viewport. 57 enemy vessels confirmed destroyed. 3 ships escaped to hyperspace before we could intercept them. Park nodded slowly. 3 survivors, exactly what we planned. Captain Lee Hyun approached from behind, his face showing the strain of the past few hours. "Sir, all human vessels report minimal damage. The adaptive shields performed beyond expectations. We suffered no casualties." "And their casualties?" Park asked, though he already knew the answer. "Complete," Hyun replied simply. "No survivors detected among the destroyed ships. The 3 that escaped were badly damaged and running at minimum crew." Dr. Choi Bin emerged from his intelligence station carrying a datapad filled with information gathered during the battle. "Admiral, we've intercepted the transmissions from the escaped ships. They're reporting back to Vorthak High Command, but their messages are fragmentary." "Show me," Park said. The holographic display activated, showing partial communication. Transcripts: human fleet. Impossible technology. All ships lost. Request immediate evacuation of border colonies. "They're terrified," Choi continued. "The survivors can barely describe what they witnessed. Their reports make humans sound like something out of their mythology." Captain Yu Jin's voice came through the communication system from the bridge of the Busan. "Admiral, we're receiving diplomatic transmissions from 17 different species. Everyone wants to talk," Park smiled grimly. "Route them through Captain O's communication array. The galaxy wants to negotiate? Fine. But they'll do it on our terms now." On the bridge of the Gwangju, Captain O-Ray managed the flood of incoming messages from across known space. The Zalani Confederation wanted immediate trade talks. The Korthak Alliance was offering military cooperation. Even species that had never contacted humans before were sending diplomatic overtures. "Admiral," she reported, "the Hegemony of Worlds is requesting permission to send an ambassador to Earth. The crystalline entities are offering to share mining rights in their home system. And, sir, 3 former Vorthak colonies are asking for protection from their own empire." The political implications were staggering. The Vorthak Empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for over 1,000 years. In a single battle, humanity had shattered that fear and shown the galaxy that the so-called masters of space could be defeated. Major Lim Wu and his Marines conducted search and rescue operations among the debris, looking for any Vorthak survivors. They found escape pods and emergency beacons, but no signs of life. The alien ships had been too heavily damaged for their crews to escape. "It's over," one of his sergeants said as they returned to the Busan. 60 ships, and not one survivor except the 3 that got away. Lim nodded. That was the point. The galaxy needed to see that attacking humanity has consequences. Engineer Chief Han Sol ran diagnostics on all the experimental technology that had been tested in combat. The results were impressive. All systems performed beyond specifications, he reported to Captain Hyun. The adaptive shields, the plasma cannons, the stealth technology, everything worked perfectly. Dr. Young A was equally pleased with her shield systems. "We can now mass-produce the adaptive technology," she told Admiral Park over the communication link. "Within 6 months, every human ship can have these defenses." But Park was already thinking beyond defensive technology. "Doctor, I want you to start working on offensive applications. If we can adapt our shields to incoming fire, perhaps we can adapt our weapons to enemy defenses." Lieutenant Park Jun continued monitoring galactic communication networks, watching as news of the battle spread across space faster than the human ships that had fought it. "Sir, the story is being broadcast on every major frequency. Some species are calling it the greatest military victory in recorded history." Captain Nam Gil's stealth ships had spread throughout the system, making sure no other enemy forces were lurking in the outer planets or nearby star systems. "All clear, Admiral," he reported. "No additional Vorthak presence detected. We're alone, out here." Alone, but not for long. The 3 surviving Vorthak ships would reach their home territory within days, carrying news that would shake the Empire to its foundations. Other species were already dispatching diplomatic missions to human space. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Dr. Choi analyzed captured Vorthak data, learning everything he could about their empire's structure and weaknesses. "Admiral, the Vorthak military doctrine is based on overwhelming numerical superiority. They've never developed tactics for fighting an equal opponent. This defeat will cause chaos in their command structure." "Good," Park replied. "Chaos makes them predictable, and predictable enemies are easier to defeat." The human fleet began preparations to leave the Kepler 442 system. There was nothing left to do here except collect sensor data and debris samples for analysis. The real work would begin when they returned to human space. Captain Hyun gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. "When we reach Earth, everything changes," he told them. "We came out here as an exploration fleet. We're returning as the advance guard of a new galactic power." The implications were enormous. Humanity would need to expand its navy, establish diplomatic relations with dozens of species, and prepare for the inevitable Vorthak counterattack. The peaceful exploration phase of human expansion was over. Admiral Park made one final broadcast before the fleet departed, transmitted on all frequencies so every species in the galaxy would receive it. His image appeared on screens throughout known space, his uniform clean and his expression calm. "To all species receiving this transmission," he began, "I am Admiral Park Soo of the Human Commonwealth Fleet. Today, a Vorthak task force attacked 12 human vessels without provocation or warning. They believed we were weak, unprepared, and easy prey." The recording showed brief clips of the battle. Human ships shrugging off massive alien attacks, Vorthak vessels exploding under return fire, the complete destruction of what had been considered an invincible fleet. "Let this serve as notice to the galaxy," Park continued. "Humanity seeks peaceful contact with all species. We offer trade, cooperation, and mutual respect to those who approach us in friendship. But we will never be anyone's victims. We will never bow to tyrants, and we will never forget our friends or our enemies." The transmission ended with images of the debris field where the Vorthak fleet had died, a stark reminder of what happened to those who mistook human restraint for weakness. As the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Captain Hyun stood, once more on the observation deck looking out at the stars. Somewhere among those points of light were alien civilizations that would soon learn they had new neighbors. Some would become allies. Others would become enemies. But all of them would learn the same lesson the Vorthak had learned too late. Humanity had not climbed to the top of Earth's food chain to become prey for alien predators. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready to claim its place among them. 6 months later, Captain Hyun commanded the first human diplomatic mission to the former Vorthak territories. 3 star systems requested to join the growing human commonwealth. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics, but their ability to adapt, plan, and execute with the precision that came from surviving as apex predators on a world where only the strongest survived. The age of human expansion had begun, built on the foundation of respect earned through strength rather than fear imposed through cruelty, and across the galaxy, every species now knew that reports of humanity's weakness had been greatly exaggerated. The ambush that was meant to end human expansion had instead announced humanity's arrival as a major galactic power. The hunters who thought they had found easy prey had learned, too late, that they had become the hunted. In the end, the Vorthak had achieved exactly what they intended. They had sent a message to the galaxy about humanity's true nature. It simply wasn't the message they had planned to send.